Why is John a male name?
And Jenny a female? Banning IVFs but also strengthening abortion laws? What the hell is going on in my home country?
About Natalia came to Canada.
And what Michael thinks about Slovakia.
And
some Game of Thrones nostalgia. All that in today's special episode of A Couple to Go. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of our podcast. I wanted to record this episode outside on the balcony with beautiful nature, spring sound in the background, but then I realized I live in Montreal and the only sounds you hear are car sounds.
And construction sounds.
Yeah, that too. But for some reason, we have this one bird that starts singing every time.
3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah.
At exactly 3 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the night.
And then he's not being sexy. He's like repeating the same sound for like 30 minutes. Exactly.
Well, that's usually how birds sing, honey. Yeah, but this weird bird, I don't know, he's super confused. He thinks that 3 a.m. is already morning. No, dear bird, 3 a.m. It's night. I want to sleep. I love your singing. You can sing in the morning. You can wake me up in the morning with your singing, but please, not at 3 a.m.
To be fair, we did get a bit of a weird weather patterns in the past few weeks, so maybe he's a bit confused from that.
Oh yeah, it snowed like what, one week ago?
Yeah, last week.
This is so crazy. Spring here in Canada is so crazy. 1 week ago it was snowing and now suddenly there's leaves everywhere because like the week ago it looked also like winter. It was snowing, it looked like winter, no leaves on the trees and now boom, suddenly like magic happened and there's green everywhere, flowers, birds sing.
Well, it didn't fully look like winter. There was no snow like on the ground. It just snowed once, but it was a
snowed
weird
twice, okay?
Whatever.
Don't try to defend Canada.
Not defending anything, but yeah, like it wasn't like
Canadian weather, sorry.
It wasn't snow that state. It just fell. But for this time of year, it's pretty unusual to get like a snow that late. So yeah, definitely some weird weather times lately. It's okay, we got a pretty light subject tonight, no?
Yeah, so this podcast is not gonna be us talking about difficult topics. Well, okay, at least not most of the podcast. We thought that it would be interesting to make a Q&A episode because this is the fourth episode and you still don't know who we are.
And to be fair, we did have a bit of an issue at the end of last week, so we couldn't record the podcast at the same day as we usually do. And we felt a bit bad about that, so...
We had an issue?
Hey.
I was on my period.
Hey, I take it as my issue as well, okay? I go through it with you, baby.
But yeah, I was on my period. I still am on my period. This period is beautiful again. It came early. It's lasting long. I'm on my 9th day of my period right now. Yeah. And I think this one is gonna last like 10 days, 11 days for sure.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yoo-hoo, periods are amazing. And I already hear all the men tuning out because I said the word period. But please stay here. This podcast is gonna be interesting also for you. As you can see, the man in front of me is also not owning a bleeding vagina, but he is also willing to listen to this.
Thank you for sharing details about my genitalias.
In case people didn't know that you don't have a vagina.
Hey, that's fair. We don't know.
What?
I mean, we do. I mean they don't. Okay. Moving on.
Baby, I do know. I know what you have on there.
Okay, enough about this. I think the coffee's running out of my blood.
So, this was us from a few days ago.
Yep.
Yeah, as we started talking about my period, guess what? I got period pain again. So we had to stop the recording because I couldn't concentrate. I tried. I really, really tried, but I wasn't able to. So here we are, continuing the podcast a few days later.
after discussing the period situation a bit more, we came to the conclusion that it was probably a better idea to make a full podcast about menstruations, because there's a bit too much on the subject for this little segment in this podcast.
Yeah, we would like to talk about things like sick leave or like days off during periods.
There's just so much to cover.
There's
on
so
this topic.
much, exactly. Like periods, for example, in the past not being such a big deal because women would always have children, and you wouldn't have so many periods as women have nowadays in their lives. Like I myself, I counted at some time. Like I went through like something between 100 and 200 periods already in my life.
Yeah, and that fact is probably one of the ones that like is the more staggering to me. But anyway, we're gonna cover that more in
we're gonna cover that in another episode.
So moving on with this week's podcast.
Yeah, before we get to the Q&A part of this podcast, I just want to make a quick announcement. This podcast got its own YouTube channel. So until now, you were able to listen to these episodes on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, and on also some other podcast apps that I fucking can't remember.
Probably would be worth writing them down.
God, I need to write them down, and next time I'm gonna read them all. I promise. But it's also available on YouTube, and it was available on my own YouTube channel. But because my channel is in Slovak and most of my videos are in Slovak, I found it would be better to give our podcast its own channel because, you know, it's in English and it's just a whole different thing than my other videos. I mean, not that different. It's still me and the subjects that I'm interested in, but, you know.
Yeah, give it its own identity.
Exactly. So if you want to listen to this podcast on YouTube, just give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel, A Couple to Go.
Same name as the podcast.
Let's start with the Q&A. Ooh. So the most asked question was, of course, how did you guys meet?
I feel like that one's the classic.
That's the classic. Well, of course, I mean, you know, we're making this as a couple, so people are interested. But I kind of don't want to tell the whole story again because I made this video about this on my YouTube channel, and that video is also in English with Slovak subtitles. So if you want to know the whole story in all detail, watch the video. My boyfriend is a feminist on the YouTube channel Natalia Muchova.
All right, and for a short story.
And for the short story, I was thinking for the short story, I'm gonna give you a challenge. And you're gonna tell our story of how did we meet. I'll give you 2 minutes to tell it.
That's plenty.
And yeah, okay, then maybe 1 minute.
I'm up to the challenge.
Okay. Oh yeah, 1 minute is gonna be better.
Okay.
Try to say it in 1 minute. Okay.
Okay.
I'm giving you 1 minute, and you have to say in most detail how did we meet. Try to get the most detail in 1 minute. And wait, I'm gonna put a timer on. Second. Okay. Can I time you?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go.
June 2018, I was in Milano for Fashion Week, working as a model. Natalia just came back from a modeling trip in Korea, and she came to visit my friend, which I was living with at that time. I went to pick her up on her arrival. We got to get to know each other, and we quite enjoyed our company. So after a while, we kind of started going out while still in Milano. And then after that, she had to leave. She went on family vacation in Croatia, but we decided to meet in Venice, which is kind of in between Milano and Croatia. We got a spark after we left Venice. We still kept talking, and then she decided to come to Canada, and she stayed here for about a month, and then that's when we became officially in a relationship, and then we've been keeping going still since then.
Wow, 46 seconds, under a minute.
Easy
bravo,
challenge.
bravo. So that was the short version of our story, and if you want to listen to the long version, also maybe listen to it in a slower tempo, so you might understand better. Watch the video I mentioned. My boyfriend is a feminist on my YouTube channel, Natalia Muchova. Nice. I'm really surprised you were able to say it so
She's the queen of the long
fast.
story, and I am the one that makes concise stories.
You are quick and short. Don't take it the wrong way. In storytelling.
Add that line to the book of lines you don't want your girlfriend to say about you.
Okay, then there are people asking, how did it come to me living here in Canada? You know, like how did that whole thing happen? Like you said it already in your quick summary.
Yep.
But basically it was just me, crazy Natalia, deciding that, yeah, I mean, I like that guy. Why shouldn't I go to Canada?
What everyone's logic would be, right? So yeah, the September after we met, a few months after we met, she came to Canada and she ended up staying for about a month and a half, I believe.
Because after that I was supposed to go to Japan for a modeling trip, another one. So I kind of like decided to, okay, I'm gonna go to Canada to see this boy I met. And then after that I'm gonna go from Canada to Japan.
Yep. And I think you leaving for Japan ended up being delayed a little bit, so you stayed a bit longer than supposed to. No.
No. That's a different. That's a different modeling trip.
That was the time after.
That's a different modeling trip, honey. How can you mix that?
Like, there's so many traveling back and forth.
That's true.
So you ended up going to Japan, and then you came back to Canada after Japan, right?
I came back for Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. So you spent Christmas here in Canada with me.
And then I spent New Year's with my family.
Yeah. And then you came back to Canada about around mid-January, and then that's when we went to Toronto.
No.
Yes.
You're forgetting about Miami.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Okay, my memory is jumping moments today.
Okay, I have to stop Michael here because just generally our story is kind of like, it wasn't just me moving to Canada, like not me coming to Canada and moving here immediately. It was kind of like a back and forth, us meeting in different countries and blah, blah, blah.
Because after Christmas, you went back for New Year's to your family, and then we met in Miami because I won a free cruise. So
yeah, Michael won a cruise. Michael won a trip
cruise?
On a cruise ship.
While being on a cruise ship.
A different story.
So we went on a cruise. The trip ended up being it was nice, but like some of our, one of our island stop ended up being cancelled because of a fucking tornado.
There was like,
or whatever.
As during the time we were on the cruise ship, we were supposed to stop at different islands, and we ended up stopping only at one island.
Yeah.
Because then there was a big storm, and
it's too dangerous to go to the other one.
It was too dangerous.
Yeah.
The whole thing had to be cancelled. So this beautiful trip that Michael won ended up being, okay, not really shitty. It was still nice.
No, it was
but
still nice.
Yeah.
It was still a beautiful, like the ship that we were on was freshly renovated, so it was amazing. Like the ship itself was really nice.
But still, like for me, that was my first cruise ship trip and probably my only one, because I like from a perspective of eco-friendliness and sustainability, and I'm a person that, I mean, I'm vegan for a reason.
Yeah. No, that's one of the big issues with cruise ships.
For me, I was like, okay, we won this now, but I'm not gonna be going on cruises. I'd rather travel and like go backpacking, or already like traveling by plane is not the best. So
So after that, we spent a few days in Miami, and then we flew to Slovakia. Well, we flew to Vienna technically, and then we went to Slovakia to visit her family. That's when I met her family for the first time.
Yeah, you met my family really quick, actually, when you think about it.
Well, you met my family even quicker.
Yeah, well, okay. I met your mom because Michael...
Yeah, I'm a single child with a lonely mama.
Not lonely. He grew up without a dad.
Yeah, exactly. My dad left before I was born, so basically my close family is me and my mother.
Well, the funny thing about your family is, though, that even though you are, technically it's just you and your mom, but also your mom has 11 siblings, 11 brothers and sisters, 11. So Michael has such a huge family that it's too big to meet up regularly, and that's why they are just by themselves.
Yeah, I think at my last big birthday of my grandmother before she passed away, we had a reunion, and there was just so many people. We had to rent a big room, and there was like 80 people or something. It was...
Your family meetings look like weddings.
Yeah, pretty much, actually.
So after that, Michael came to Slovakia and spent a month or something in Slovakia?
Yeah, I think it was close to a month. Yeah. It was nice.
Oh man, and then we are so unlucky with things going to shit when we travel together and want to show each other stuff. Because when Michael was in Slovakia, there's the highest mountains in Slovakia are called High Tatras, and we went there and wanted to go
to the
up.
highest peak of the mountain.
To go to the highest peak of the mountain where you can can go. Like, you can go to Lomnicki Štít. It's not the highest mountain, but I think the highest place where you can publicly go.
Mm-hmm.
And I myself haven't been there yet on the peak, and we wanted to go there together with Michael and my sister. So we stayed at like a cabin, and then we wanted to go there. But because of another fucking storm or something,
the ferry was closed.
The ferry was closed, and you couldn't go up.
Yeah, the wind speed was too high, so it was dangerous to take the ferries up the mountain.
Storms are ruining all of our trips.
Yeah, seriously. Storms, pandemic, just call it.
Pandemic.
That's another story.
But like, honestly, come on, we can't complain. We still travel a lot more than other people do.
I'm not complaining.
It's silly to complain. I mean, okay, when you go somewhere and stuff gets cancelled, and I mean, it was Michael's first time in Slovakia, and God knows when he will be able to come back because of the whole Corona situation now.
Yeah, it might be another year before I can come back.
So, I mean, yeah, it does suck. But
it
was still super nice to have you in Slovakia.
Honestly, the country was super surprising. It was nicer than what I expected. I guess we have this vision in North America of like Central and Eastern Europe that's not as nice as it actually is, or I don't know, maybe Slovakia is one of the exception. And because I've heard, like, for Ukraine, for example, I've heard a lot of bad things about the situation in Ukraine.
Well, but that's a political situation. Like, Ukraine itself, I think it is a nice country. I don't know, I've seen pictures and stuff. Like, I lived with Ukrainian models in apartments, and they said that like the country itself is nice, just the politics are shit.
Fair enough. Yeah, anyway, I was positively surprised by Slovakia. But like Bratislava, for example, basically looks like any big city that you have here.
And you have to admit that there's like nicer architecture in Slovakia than in Canada.
Well,
I mean, the old cities, the old towns are beautiful.
Because you definitely have more old architecture because the country itself is older.
Yeah.
Canada's fairly young. But yeah, in terms of old architecture, you definitely have more.
Yeah, I feel like everything was really nice about Slovakia when you came to visit, except the medical situation. Because while Michael was in Canada in Slovakia last year, I had some medical issues, health problems.
Yeah, we don't even know what it was.
Exactly. Like, I had health problems that were quite bad, and we had to go to the hospital. And I waited so long until they even were able to examine me that they ended up not really examining me. And they just were like, yeah, okay, like, it's gonna pass. And then I think it was already after you left.
Yeah.
I stayed in Slovakia, right? Or wait. What's the name? Wait, I'll have to Google it because I can't remember.
Oh, I was there when they did that.
The gastroscopy?
Yeah, we were in the car together going back home after.
That was not...
Yeah, it was the gastroscopy. The by the throat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there when they did that.
You were there?
Yeah, that's the first medical exam that you got in the bunker.
No, not that. No. Wait.
I'm pretty sure I was there when they did that.
So this podcast episode is basically just us remembering. Yeah, gastroscopy, that's the name.
Mm-hmm.
I, with my medical conditions, already had different experiences in hospitals, like surgery and stuff, but the gastroscopy, that was fucking hell. That was everybody that has ever undergone a gastroscopy, like, oh god, just Google images of it.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It looks terrifying. And her face when she came out of it, it just looked like, I don't know, it just looked, she looked like a ghost.
I don't remember you being there, fuck. Okay, we remembered how it went. So Michael stayed at home because he had some work to do, and I went with my mom to the gastroscopy.
Yes.
And then I came back home, and yes, I was still pale and looked horrible, and I don't know. Because for those people who don't know what a gastroscopy is, they basically insert a tube into you through your mouth and through your throat, all the way up until your, how do you call that in English?
Stomach?
Stomach, yeah. All the way into your stomach, and there's a little cam, and the tube is quite thick, and they do all of this, like, you are awake.
Yep.
They don't do it with anesthetics.
No, they're just like,
you are awake, and it just feels so horrible because your body, like you're lying on the side and they're putting down this tube through your body, and you feel it. You feel how it goes inside of your body, and you have that gag reflex, but you are like, it's so deep down in your body that the gag reflex is so strong that your whole body shakes. Like my whole body was shaking. I had the feeling that I left my body and was looking at me from outside. I never had that experience before. It was fucking weird. I've had a feeling that I left my body and I saw myself from the perspective of like an outside observer, and I saw how my whole body was shaking, how my eyes were rolling, and how I was just like trying to puke and gag, and it was one of the worst experiences ever. And the thing is that after that, I learned that, oh yeah, you can do this also with just swallowing a pill with a camera inside. You don't have to go through this whole process. Thank you for this information in advance.
And now, ladies and gentlemen...
No information in advance.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, you can find this podcast under the horror section in your whatever podcast thing you use.
Oh, sorry, I just burped.
Very classy woman.
This whole thing made me nervous.
Anyway, what was the fucking question you started making?
What was the question? Oh, Canada.
Yeah, we're far from Canada at this point.
Lol. Okay, the next question I had that I remember that you were saying you want to have a cat if we already have a name for the cat. And we do already have a name because we want to adopt a cat. We're going to be moving to a new apartment soon.
In about a month.
And we want to get a cat from a pet shelter.
Yep, little kitty.
Yeah, and we thought already about a beautiful name.
We're going to call her baby Curie.
Like Madame Curie.
Yeah, we kind of were looking for inspirations or people or names or anything that really we found inspiring in the world or in history or, really whatever. And
I wanted to have a name that was gender neutral, so we can apply it to both a male kitty and a female kitty, because we don't know what cat we're gonna get, really. Like, it's gonna be a pet shelter cat, so...
Yeah. And we need to find, like, one that's hypoallergic.
Yeah,
we want a decent age range as well, so...
The sex of the cat really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's probably, like, our last priority.
Yeah. So it's gonna be called Curie, and, because I went through the questions a little bit already before this podcast. So I was in the shower. I had shower thoughts, and I was thinking, okay, so we are naming our cat Curie, and we wanted to get a name that was gender neutral, right? Yeah. And that got me thinking that, isn't it weird that we associate certain names with men and women, that some names sound female to us and other names sound male to us? Isn't that super weird?
Yeah, it is, I guess, kind of weird.
Like, why is Michael, the word Michael, male? Why?
Well, Michael is a biblical name, so it's associated with, like, the first use of the name Michael was because it's associated to the archangel, like, of God, Michael.
Okay, then different name, John. Why, when you hear John, you picture a man? The word John is associated, why is it associated with the male gender?
I don't know. What I can say is that certain name refer to certain object or certain things. For example, the name Lily refers to a flower.
Yeah.
And flowers are usually like portrayed as something more feminine. So Lily is more employed as a girl's name. Like in certain names, you can kind of make sense with what they originally were meant for. But for male name, but for other names, it's, I don't know. I guess it's just
also in Slovak, almost all female names end with an A, like Natalia, Anna, Emilia, Maximiliana.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just not saying typical Slovak names right now, but
naming your family right now.
Yeah, just naming names from my family. But wait, okay, typical Slovak names or like popular right now: Sofia, Emma, Maria. It's all with an A. All ends with an A.
Yeah. It's kind of a I don't know if it's a gag or but when North Americans refer to people from Eastern Europe, like the first names that come to our mind are usually like Natasha and stuff like that, just because those names that end with the strong A are usually really portrayed as something like Eastern European, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. And for those who are listening outside of Slovakia or Czech Republic and don't know, in our countries we also have different family names. So my dad is Mucha, but I am Muchova, and we always add that ova at the end of a last name if it's a woman.
Yeah, the ova basically translates in English as from the.
Or like belonging to.
Yeah, so for Natalia, for example, muha means fly, so muhova would mean from the fly or belongs to the fly.
Yeah, but it's basically, it doesn't mean like, it's meant as belonging to the man carrying the name. Belonging to the man in the family, belonging to that family name, which is male.
Yeah, basically a family association.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, I thought about changing my name into Mucha, because, I don't know, I was
You'd like to defy the norms?
Because I don't want to be somebody's someone. I don't want to be like, belonging to my dad or belonging to there. I don't want to be a somebody's. I want to be a someone.
By yourself, independently of anything else.
And then I thought that, okay, actually in Slovakia it's still quite okay compared to Russia, for example, where, and if I would be Russian, my name would be Natalia Petrovna Muchova.
So every woman is as Petrovna in their name?
No. Every woman, the second name is the father's name. Like Petrovna, like belonging to Peter.
Oh, really?
My dad's name is Peter. So I would be Natalia, belonging to Peter from the family Mucha.
It just reminds me of like old school Europe where you'd be like, oh, you are Jonathan of France, or,
A son of da-da-da.
or, Jonathan of Paris, or son of like the butcher, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like your name is a reference to where you're from, your identification, what you do in life.
But I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if this also applies to men in Russia.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know Russia enough to tell.
Let me Google that. And you will so far reply to the next question. Okay, so the next question, people were wondering, where are you from? So you're from Canada.
Yeah.
But the main reason behind this question was they were wondering, why is your English so good?
Well, first of all, thank you.
And if you know any Slovak, that was also a question.
Still by som sa, prosím.
Yeah, Michael knows just few phrases I taught him. The important ones he wanted to know. Yeah. He loves salt, so yeah. And we're trying to cut down on that, right, honey? Salt is not so good. Not so much salt.
Milujem ťa, Estiel.
Milujem ťa.
Salt. So no, I don't speak Slovak so good. I know just a few words. But yeah, so basically my birth language is French, but I always had kind of disliking into English, the English language. As soon as I started learning it in school, I always had the highest level in my classes. So when I was in 6th grade, I did an intensive English class where I did half of my year in English and then the rest in French. And then after that, I always took advanced English in high school and in college. So yeah, I don't know. I just always liked it. And then I had the chance to get fluent in it and practice it with friends. And my first girlfriend, she was Anglophone, and that's kind of how I got to develop it, I guess. And then now I'm living in Montreal, which is a very heavily bilingual city. The people speak as much French as they speak English, so I get the chance to practice my English at work and in my everyday life. So yeah, that's kind of how I got good at English.
Oh, okay. I found out about the names. So it is both for men and women, but it's always the father's name, never the mother's, but always the father's.
It's always the father.
That was the discriminatory thing about it. Well, I don't know if to call it discriminatory, but it is kind of like outdated in modern equality society.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so it is customary in Russia to use patronymics as middle names. Patronymics are derived from father's given name and end with ovich or evich, and the female patronymics are ova or enva.
Okay, fair enough. So it's kind of close, but they have that extra little name in their name.
Yeah. So this applies then for both men and women.
It's basically a family association or a close family association.
But then it's also look, you already have that. Actually, wait.
Yeah, because one is for the larger family and one would be for the closer family.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if then they have the ova on the ending of the the last name. If they have, they have the Petrovna from Peter, but I don't know if they have also Muchova. So maybe I wouldn't be Natalia Petrovna Muchova, but Natalia Petrovna Mucha.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably, because the way I see it, let's say you have the two initial parents, they have 10 children. They all have different names, but they're all in the same core big family. So that would be, for example, Mucha. And then to differentiate which grandchildren are from who, I'm getting distracted. To differentiate which grandchildren are from who, like Petrovna, that's what you said?
Yeah.
Would associate with one of their children. So that way you kind of know your line through the family. You're in the Mocha family, but you're through the Petrovna line, which is the Peter. That's one of the child. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, but you'd never use the mom's name. That's what I'm saying. It's always the father's.
Yeah, but that's very old school. It's not something that's like new.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. That's what I was saying. That's kind of like old school, outdated. It's like
yeah, it's probably another one. Traditional thing.
Like there's a lot of people in Slovakia that were thinking like me, and they don't want to have that ova in their last name anymore. There's a lot of people that are like this.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But there is also a lot of people that are seeing this as a tradition, and that are seeing the other people as like too extremist and want to eradicate the tradition.
The forever conflict between tradition and ideological progress.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call yourself Ova, then last name Ova, it's your decision, but I don't know. I think it should be this. It should be choice. It should be parents should be able to choose, or the child should be able to. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it will be the parents because the child is a bit young to make the decision.
True. Okay, well.
Moving on.
This is definitely an interesting topic to think about.
Yeah, I don't think we have much to go further on this topic. So, do we have more questions about it?
Yes, a question. What do you think about the last season of Game of Thrones? This question was asked by an acquaintance I had in Japan.
Yeah.
They were the guys that they were basically living in our Airbnb before you came in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The German guys.
The German people, the German guys.
Yeah.
That's from one of the German guys that were living with us.
Funny. The last season of Game of Thrones. Well, I think it's pretty common knowledge that the last season was garbage compared to the rest of the show.
Oh yeah, wait. Before you start, I'm sending out greetings.
Oh, yeah.
Grüß euch.
So yeah, I think it's pretty common knowledge.
You can say something in German. You can say Dankeschön.
Dankeschön.
Danke. Okay, sorry. Now you go.
It's pretty common opinion or common knowledge that the last season of Game of Thrones is pretty, I'm not going to say shit, but I'm going to say underwhelming compared to the rest of the, let's say first, 6 seasons?
You know that there's a huge percentage of people that are still like, oh yeah, the season was great because Game of Thrones is just great.
Yeah, well,
there are people that are really big fans of certain things, and then they are such big fans that they kind of like ignore all mistakes because they don't want to see anything about a certain show or something they like in a negative light. Like they ignore everything bad about it.
In terms of Game of Thrones, I think it's just unfortunate because it just feels, if you take the pacing of the show before the last 2 seasons and the pacing of the show after the last 2 seasons, it just feels like the ending was rushed and it didn't live up to the intelligent writing that was there by J.R. Martin.
Well, just simply said, it was too little episodes. Like it was too speed up, too condensed, and sped up exactly. Too condensed, and also, oh my god, such stupid decisions.
Well, there's some character progress that's so sad. Like Jaime's, I think is probably one of the most hurt. Like
Jaime's whole character arc was just completely fucking ignored.
It's just wasted. It's just like he's got such a character progression, and then no, never mind. I'm gonna go die under a rock. Like
yeah, and there was something because when I read this question, I kind of like thought back about there's a German YouTube channel called Cinema Strikes Back, and they're making videos about film and just like history of film analysis, and just it's a really interesting channel. So for everybody who speaks German, check out Cinema Strikes Back. Yeah, and they also made how's the English translation? Folgenbesprechungen. Like analyzing the episodes.
Okay.
And they started to do that I think from the 6th season or something. And their analysis of the last episode of season 8 was 3 hours long. And it was like 3 hours of bitching at it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because Jamie's story arc is not the only one that got butchered. Daenerys' story arc also got butchered.
Yeah.
Jon's story arc fucking butchered. He's basically a fucking mute in the last season. He doesn't say shit except for 3 lines.
Yeah, but they were saying about Jamie. There's something interesting about what Jamie said to Tyrion. I don't want to like completely spoil everything, but for people who haven't seen it. But okay, let's be honest. Who hasn't seen Game of Thrones at this point?
Yeah, at this point you should have seen Game of Thrones. And if you don't care about it anymore.
Okay, now I'm gonna give out a spoiler warning. So I'm gonna go into spoilers right now, in spoiler territory. So if you don't wanna listen to anything about Game of Thrones, if you haven't seen the show, still, for some reason, I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding, of course. If you haven't seen the show, I mean, like, there's so many good shows out there, it's really possible that you haven't seen the show.
2 minutes in the future, I'm timing you, Natalia.
2 minutes? No!
Hey, if I can tell the story of our love in 46 seconds, you can tell your point in for 2 minutes.
Okay, time me.
Timer, 2 minutes, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so when Jamie was talking to Tyrion in the tent before they went off to King's Landing and everything, he told Tyrion that he doesn't care about the lives of innocent people, which doesn't make any shitty sense because when he was talking to Brienne in the bath, he fucking explained why he killed the king before because he wanted to save the lives of innocent people. And his whole story, except pushing Bran down the tower, is he's trying to save innocent people and trying to kind of limit the death tolls and different things. I mean, yes, he is able to be ruthless and stuff, but he cares about the lives of innocent people that are not involved in politics and that should not die. And another thing about Daenerys then, Emilia Clarke, she apparently didn't know what is going to happen to Daenerys. So she didn't know that she's going to go mad and stuff. So and when she got that information, apparently she called her family a lot, being asking weird questions like, oh, do you think Daenerys is bad? Do you think she's a bad person? I don't know, her mom or somebody. It really fucked with her that she didn't know. Yeah. Because the thing is that if you don't know that your character is gonna have this big change, this huge change in development, if you know before, you can kind of add it to your acting, plant seeds. So it makes sense later for a character to become, to change in this way. I'm done.
All right. 20 seconds left.
Woo woo.
All right. So, end of the spoiler warning for you. For those of you that don't want to be spoiled about Game of Thrones, you can now keep listening. All right. So let's move on from Game of Thrones and go to another topic.
I have so much more to say about
I know,
Game
you have too much to say about this show.
They fucking ignored everything about the Dothraki, everything, the culture and stuff. Oh, wait. Oh.
No. We're out of the spoiler warning.
Okay, I'm just saying. According to the events that happened, after what happened, by Dothraki law, Jon should have become the new Khal.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, that's one of the things. When Game of Thrones was airing, on air, I would not hear the end of it. After every episode, I would get if we were not together, she would send me 20 voice messages about the latest episode, and if we were together, we'd spend the night after talking about Game of Thrones.
Well, because I'm a huge Game of Thrones, I am a fan, but because it's a story, it's a show, it's just something that's so good for analysis, and I love analyzing movies and shows and just generally analyzing things. So Game of Thrones is just perfect for that. Yeah,
so if you ever meet Natalia in the street and you want her to talk to you for 3 hours, start talking about Game of Thrones. She's very passionate.
And she knows also a lot about stuff from Westeros history.
Right.
Okay, somebody's asking, how did I learn English that well? Okay, we had that question for you. Now the question is for me. My turn. Well, we kind of explained this already in our episode number 3, where we talked about bilingualism and multilingualism. So if you want to get more information, I highly recommend listening to the last episode of our podcast. But to simplify it, I basically, through traveling and also through just consuming a lot of English media, I would watch a lot of things in English with English subtitles, so I see how it's written. And just generally through modeling, like when you are traveling as a model, you're meeting so many people from different countries, and the only language usually that all of them speak is English. So if you want to be able to talk to your roommates, you kind of like have to improve even your English. Exactly.
At least a tiny bit.
Yeah. And of course, through Michael. I mean, since we started dating, my English has improved so much.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Because, I mean, I can't talk to you in Slovak. You wouldn't understand anything. My French is too bad to be able to talk to you properly.
Your French is work in progress.
My French I forgot a lot of my French, or my French got really bad after I graduated because I wasn't using it. So yeah, we talk to each other in English.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just generally through living.
Yep, using a language is the key.
I learned some basics at school, but we didn't have good English teachers up until the last English teacher, and she was really trying hard to kind of like make up for all the bad English teachers that we had before and teach us as much as possible during the short time we'd had with her. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't really enough. I mean, she taught us a lot. I'm going to be forever thankful for how much she told us. It was funny though, because when she started teaching us, because we were used to English teacher just slacking off and didn't, not teaching us anything. You just have basically like 3 hour or something, know. And then she comes in and she's like, okay, so we gotta do this, and this. You have that homework. And we would hate her for like the first year because she would be just so tough on us, and and suddenly we had to learn.
Yeah, so you had to do something.
Exactly. So she wouldn't be really favored, but after that we realized that she's actually teaching us and actually giving us a lot. So then
thank you to that lady.
Thank you for that lady. Exactly. Thank you for Pani Profesorka Filipová. And because we don't want this podcast to last forever, this podcast we're gonna make shorter than the other ones. So last question. How does it feel to live in Canada, or how is it to live in Canada? And I found that question so funny because, I say that I live in Canada now, but actually I didn't spend that much time in Canada. And so far, when I was here always during winter or like during cold season, when it's so fucking cold outside that my fucking window cleaner was freezing on the window and I couldn't clean a window.
Natalia doesn't like the cold, you see?
So I wouldn't see that much of Canada. Like I would arrive around autumn. Then we would go around and look around a little bit, and then it would start to get cold immediately. So then I stayed the rest of my trip so far always at home or just a little bit inside the city, but we wouldn't really travel that far. Also, usually when I was here, Michael was working a lot. I don't have a driving license.
Yeah. In Montreal, you don't really need it, but to see the outside of Montreal,
to see outside, because Canada is such a huge country, you need a car to be able to
move around.
Go anywhere.
And we don't have a train system like in a lot of Europe countries to move around cities, and our intercity buses are really expensive compared to Europe. Like here, to go from Montreal to my hometown, which is about an hour and a half drive, it costs about 40 euros, which is maybe a bit less, 30 euros. But it's so much for an hour and a half drive.
We paid like 80 euros, both of us, to get to your hometown, and that's 1 hour drive with a bus, or 1.5 hours or something.
It's completely ridiculous. Like in Europe, you pay like 3 euros to go from fucking Rome to Naples, which is on the other side of the like it's ridiculous.
So I haven't seen that much from Canada yet because public transport is super fucking expensive. We don't have a car, so if we want to go somewhere, we have to rent a car. That is also some extra money again. And I don't have a driving license, and Michael was working a lot, so I would have to go with him if we would like to go somewhere. But now we are getting a car.
As soon as we move, we're getting a car this next month, and then we'll see how the situation goes with the coronavirus. But if it's still if I'm still not working, because I'm not working because of the coronavirus, because I work in the event industry. Ooh.
Then we can make finally some trips around the country and actually see Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Because so far I've seen Montreal. I've seen a little bit around Montreal, inside of Quebec.
Yeah.
We've been to Toronto, so I've been to the Niagara Falls.
Went to Ottawa a little bit.
Yeah, we went to Ottawa, but we haven't seen like that much. Like the country is so big, I haven't seen that much yet.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of greens to see in this country.
Well, okay,
there's a lot of distance between the towns.
I have seen the Niagara Falls, so
that's true.
I've seen the main thing in Canada.
They're probably the biggest tourist attraction or most internationally known thing about Canada, the fucking falls.
But yeah, what I can say about Canada is that I really like the people here. The people are super nice.
Yeah.
And I like the diversity that everybody is from somewhere else.
That's very typical.
Nobody is really from Canada.
But that's in the big cities. Like in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver.
Okay, yeah. In Montreal and Toronto and stuff, yeah. Okay, Sherbrooke, your hometown, not. That's just all people are Quebecois and Canadian, but...
The thing about Sherbrooke's a university city, so we have a lot of students from other countries. But I'm speaking more about smaller towns. Sherbrooke is still a pretty big town.
Okay, but even Canadians are not really Canadians. You know, they come from Europe or from different countries.
There's a high percentage of people that are not actually born in Canada to start with, and then even people that are born in Canada, they have a lot of ancestors that are outside from like Canada, obviously, because colonization and stuff.
So yeah, Michael, for example, here you said that you are part Irish.
If I remember correctly, I'm like 2/4 English, 1/4 French, and 1/4 Irish. I think that's my ancestry. So yeah, I don't have red hair though. So.
And just that you have such a huge diversity and different cultural backgrounds means that people are generally more tolerant and like empathetic towards others. We don't have so many prejudices. It's like you can be whoever the fuck you want, and people will not look at you weird.
Yeah, well, Canada's a very liberal country. It's a nice place to live in terms of like human rights in general and freedom
and today we watched a short documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's a new documentary series that's called
101 History?
History 101.
I was close enough.
History 101, and they have different episodes on different topics, a little bit like the Explained series. And there's one topic about feminism. One episode about feminism, and we watched that one and another one today. And in that documentary, we learned, and also later we looked into it, that there are only 8 countries in the whole world which have full equal rights for women, like same rights for women and men, like from a legal it's so sad, like honestly.
Yep.
From a legal perspective, full equality between men and women, or generally between gender, is only present in 8 countries, and those countries are Belgium, France, Denmark, Latvia, Luxembourg, Sweden, Canada, and Iceland.
Some of these countries you might not expect it, and otherwise you might also expect other countries to be in there with those countries, but
yeah,
I don't know, this list is so short. It's way too short for shorter than it should be.
And the thing with this is that in more countries, from a perspective of like what actually is going on in the countries, yes, more countries have a certain level of equality, but you should have that also legally in your laws. Like you should have that written down somewhere legally, because you can just snap with your fingers and there's going to be something happening, and the rights are going to be able to be taken away if you don't have that.
Yeah,
in
just
your
take
legal
away the chance of abuse.
Yeah, in your like legal legislative.
Yeah.
And the sad thing, in Slovakia, there were being votes held recently about a kind of like update to human rights, and it was declined. And there were also things like this, like equality between men and women, for the LGBTQ community and stuff, and it was fucking declined.
Yeah, the news has been shitty regarding like human rights lately. Not only in Slovakia, Hungary is also a big...
Oh god, yeah, and in Hungary, they banned now gender changes, so you can't, as a transgender person, change your gender anymore legally in Hungary.
Yeah, they just basically end legal recognition for trans people, which is really shitty.
It's so bad. And Poland is also doing like shitty things in this. And Slovakia is kind of like in between those countries geographically. Yeah. And I feel like also politically it's just, and it's so sad because we have the first female president now. We already had a female prime minister, but we had the first female president now. And she's super liberal. She's like, I was so happy when she got elected.
Yeah.
And now the prime minister and the whole like actual parliament is going in this very dangerously conservative mindset. And there was a politician in the parliament and she was like, I would like to ban IVFs because if God doesn't want you to have a kid, if you can't have children, you should not be able to get them in a fake way.
What's IVS, baby, for people that don't know the acronym?
In vitro fertilization.
There you go. So yeah, usually we tend to stay away from things that are too political, but I think there's been a lot of news lately that just baffled us. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with your part of the world, maybe, but it's definitely not good right now.
Oh God.
So on one hand, they want to strengthen abortion laws, but on the other hand, they also want to reduce artificial, like insemination. Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Like, it's just like women who don't want to have children, they have to have children, and women who want children but can't have the children, they are denied the right of having children. That's the logic of these people that are in the parliament now.
Yeah, I don't know. So.
And I'm just like, all four fingers crossed that this does not pass and that they're not gonna make these changes an actual law. Oh.
All right, so I think that was it for our Q&A for today, or for our podcast in general, ending on a very positive and happy note, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, if you're still here...
What did we say in the beginning of the podcast? That we're gonna not touch on difficult subjects?
Today, yeah. I guess we can't do that.
No, I guess it doesn't work with us.
Doesn't work with us. So if you're still listening, thank you for staying with us until the end. Don't forget to thumbs up or like or whatever it is on the platform that you're listening this to.
On YouTube, we will be really happy if you could write us a comment with anything you would like to tell us about the podcast. If you have some suggestions about topics we could talk about, or just generally tell us your opinion. And on the other platforms, on Spotify, we would really appreciate a follow if you like this podcast. And on iTunes or Apple Podcast, you can give us a rating. That's it for today's episode. We see each other next time. Next episode is going to be again with a topic that we chose, and we're going to talk about that topic and concentrate on that topic, same as the other episodes before. This was more of a random,
lighthearted day.
Not really lighthearted, but just like a random episode.
We'll probably see you guys next week. We're going to try very hard.
I hope you liked this episode anyway, and yeah, see you soon.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.